Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tank review, the mighty MBT-B. Cancel that guy. How dare I review a tank in this game that the internet mob has been oh so very angry about. Well, we're going to do it. MBT Bravo, you can get it out of the round boxes. Currently the subject of what I call the round boxer rebellion. See what I did there? It's a tier 10 U.S. heavy tank, a very strange tank actually, and one with a very, I don't know if I want to say it controversial, but it did have a bit of a rocky super test career. It got changed a lot. I think tanks like this are very difficult to balance. We've seen that in the past. All of the super high alpha and burst potential alpha tanks, they're not easy to balance in the game. The game really was built around cyclical single shot guns and a relatively plodding game mechanic in terms of kind of slow gameplay. But that has sped up over the years, and we've really got to more of a Twitch gameplay. Obviously not completely Twitch gameplay because we got RNG. It's still kind of slow, I get it. But they've really sped up the game. That cannot be denied. And this is kind of one of the reasons tanks like this with the burst potential. And what this thing has, you probably already know, but it has 3 shots of 2 shots each, essentially. It's an auto loader that you hit the shot button and 2 shells come out very quickly, then you wait a little while, 2 more, 2 more. And you have to reload the whole thing before you can start over again. That's going to create some challenges because the reload is so long, and we'll talk about that when we look at the replays. If you are accustomed, as I am to some extent, to leaning towards forcing a reload on your auto loader rather than kind of sitting back and waiting to get all the shells downrange, you might need to be careful with that kind of gameplay with this, because say you pop out, take 2 shots and go, all right, I don't really have a shot immediately, so I'm going to reload so I'm ready. I'll show you some gameplay examples of this and why that might not be the best idea. So it does require a lot of thinking while you're playing it. It also doesn't have a whole lot of armor. It is considered heavy. So it wants to be close because its dispersion, although mine shows pretty good. The second shot's pretty bad though, right? Because you get some bloom stuff going on after you shoot the second shot of the 2-shot series. So you can run it as a sniper, but that may not be where it excels. Then you kind of want to be mid to close, but then it doesn't really have the armor to do so. It is occupying a heavy slot, so you're sort of compelled to do some heavy things with it, depending on your loadout in the match. So there's a lot of interesting angles going on with the MBT Bravo. I would say overall, I would like to not have these kinds of tanks in the game. I don't like the burst stuff, but here it is, and we'll talk about it. We have some initial information on how good or bad it is. We can't take a whole lot away from this, but at least it's early. But it is sitting in the top 20, 25-ish, something like that, right here. MBT Bravo, 18,000 games played, 1759 win rate currently. Of course, this is just tanks.gg info, such as they have. It's only running a win rate of 49.84, although the players are 53.84 average. People are buying this thing, and it tends to be good players. So the whales that are good players are grabbing up the MBT Bravo. Also, we do need to note that probably a good number of those battles, it's, what is it, 18,000? So a decent number, I don't know, I can't even assign a percentage, maybe 10%, 20% are probably CCs that played it for a while. Maybe slightly less than that. So early days, hard to tell, but what it's not doing right now is sitting at the top. I think that's at least good news, that it doesn't seem to be immediately overpowered and the early adopters are crushing with it. That being said, I consider the game mechanic kind of broken. The whole auto loader, reloader, super alpha burst thing. I don't like it in the game, but there you go. It's here. Here's this tank. All right, MBT Bravo. How did I set mine up? I'm actually going experimental just for giggles on this. I'm running the survival improvement, I have the accuracy improvement, and I've got the mobility improvement. We'll take a look at what that does for me. It is a 3-person crew, as you can see right here. I got old Jason Statham in there, Andre and Angelique. I have a bunch of characters sitting around the barracks from all the events, so I just actually made a 3-person crew. I don't think there is a 3-person crew. In fact, I looked around and I'm pretty sure there isn't for the heavies for the US. However, you can probably find matches, maybe, out of the rest of your crew. The oddness is that this gunner is also a loader, and I don't think that exists anywhere else in the US heavy line. You can take a look at it there. So I just made my own crew, and as you can see, they're pretty good. I did throw a couple books at these guys, but all these characters started with a bunch of skills, so we're in good shape with the crew on that. I am running, as I said, the experimental stuff. I'm not running a directive. I do have a decent amount of APCR. That is going to give you 305 penetration, 260 on the standard round, which is pretty good, 60 pen, and up to 515 or average 515 on the HE. Not fantastic on the HE, but probably good enough for taking down artillery. Here's the nice thing about it. That double shot, if it pins with HE, should eliminate nearly every artillery out there. Sometimes with the lower alpha tanks, not so much with heavies, but often with the mediums at tier 10, it takes 2 shots to get tanks down, or get to artillery down, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I am running food and a couple of the consumables for the repair kit and the whatever this is, first aid. So what are the numbers that I get out of this thing? The numbers are 400 average damage not changed by equipment, 260 not changed. We're getting a reload at 40 seconds. That's quite a long time. So the shots are 0.5 between each shot. You have 3 shots and 2 shells in each shot. The gun traverse is pretty good. -10 gun depression, so that's very comfortable. 2.23 aiming time, a little bit long. 0.29 is good. Remember, the second shot is going to be worse. 2,945 DPM, which is pretty good, especially for an auto loader. We'll do a comparison against some of the other auto loaders and auto reloaders in the game. You'll find that this is actually the highest DPM of all of them, which I thought was kind of interesting. We slide down here with the survival suite. We're getting 2,180 points. And there's the armor, 105 and 200, not great. 200 for the turret. Speed-wise, I'm cruising around at 55 because I've got the turbo kind of idea going on. That's pretty good for a heavy. That's pretty dang fast. You know, it's not quite IS-7 fast, but you're scooting along not bad at all. Nice specific power at 17.68, so it does get up and move. And of course, it's a heavy, so its camo's not great. We'll take a look at the comparison, but the view range starts at 400, which is pretty good. Pretty good for a heavy. What is this thing? It is some kind of early main battle tank. General Motors presented a project as a main battle tank. Cutting edge tank building trends of the 1960s, a lowered silhouette, high mobility, hydro pneumatic suspension, ensuring smooth movement without the ability to change clearance, as well as combined armor for heat shell protection. Got a 120 millimeter in it. Launching device as well. Okay, interesting. And their decision to mount TV cameras on the rear of the turret to boost the view range and ease reversing was even ahead of its time. The project stopped at the full-scale prototype stage, but all the developments formed the basis as a promising 1970s American tank, the MBT-70. So it looks like one prototype was made. We'll take a look at the comparison as I discussed there. So I've got the MBT. I do not have another premium or reward tank there because there aren't any really that are auto loaders. So we'll just compare it to the Rhinoceronte, the Carnarvon, the Kronvon, and VZ55. All of these autoloader, loader, reloaders are around the same alpha, with the MBT coming in the lowest per shell at 400. All pretty close in standard penetration. Rate of fire is similar, although remember the Rhinoceronte is always in the fight. It reloads and it can still shoot while it's reloading, provided it hasn't shot all 3 shots, then it's waiting for the first shell to come back. The base reloads 43 seconds, whereas the Kron is 23, and the VZ is 23. 23 seconds is close enough to a standard high alpha reload. It's more, but it's close enough that your gameplay can be very similar even with the auto loader. 23 seconds and you're back in the fight with those 2 tanks. The Rhinoceronte is never really out of the fight because of its auto reloader situation, so the MBT Bravo is a bit different because it's out of the fight for so much longer, and based on the standard timing of how this game is played, that can really put you in a bind if you're not careful. Again, we'll show you some examples of that in the gameplay footage that I've got from my games. -10 gun depression, it's right in there with most of these guys. You know, I got the Kron at -12, which is super nice. 2.59 aim, one of the worst ones out of them, not quite as bad as the VZ. 0.34 is decent dispersion. I did not realize the Kron was so bad. It did get nerfed a while back though, didn't it? There's that DPM that's just good. The Kron's at 26, it's at 27, the Rhinoceronte at 19, and the VZ at 22. Found that very interesting, but the balancing factor there is the long time you're waiting to stay in the game. We're talking about being able to get all 6 shots down, all 6 shots pinned, and get some damage off of them. That's a tall order. It can be done. You tend to have to be close to do it, which is problematic for the MBT without armor. But there you go. It's possible. All right, theoretical. Hit points at 2,000, kind of right along with the rest of these guys. There's that hole in turret armor. If you look at it, it's not that much worse than, say, the Kron and the Rhinoceronte, but especially in the Kron's point, there's a lot of angles there, right? It's a very good turret in terms of angles. This thing has weird angles on its turret. It will give you the odd goofy bounce, but overall, even, I don't know, frankly, tier 8 standard pen on a lot of heavies are going to go right through a 200 millimeter turret. There's weird angles and things, so you will have some bounces, but do not count on this thing's armor in any way, even though it's a heavy. Mobility's up there at 45, pretty much the fastest of all of them, minus the BZ. So that's the load weight limit. So I have no idea what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the top speed and the actual number, which is actually 50, tied with the BZ. So decently fast. And I did cover the concealment stuff, but it's sitting at 7. It's a heavy. You know, how concealed can it be? Not very. And there's that view range, 400. It's got a 10-meter advantage over the rest of the tanks in there. So what do we have? We have a mobile heavy tank with a significant amount of burst potential that can be problematic in terms of bringing that burst potential to bear, and a very long reload, which is going to take it out of the fight, sometimes at critical points when you're going to need the shell. So it is very much a support type of heavy. You're going to have a hard time holding places alone, but if you've got some help, it can be absolutely brutal. So keeping people from shooting you, which is pretty much how you play the game anyway, is very important though with the MBT Bravo. You want to keep your votes and that nice burst firepower alive for as much of the game as you can. All right, so that's the comparison. How have I done? I've played a few games and I'm at 57% win rate and with a whole 7 games. All right, so can't really take much from that. I do have a 927, almost 1,000 experience average, which is kind of what I shoot at tier 8 and above, but only 2336 on the average damage, which is not going to set any records out there. Hits are low. I'm still working with the gun, trying to figure out when to fire, how to handle it, all that good stuff. Armor use efficiency, almost nothing, 0.09. That's even lower than I would have expected, but that's really bad. Again, 7 games, so we can't take a whole lot from these numbers. Destruction ratio is high. One thing I will say about this, in terms of shutting down near deads, it's brutal. Remember, you got 2 400 alpha shots coming out, and if you're close, especially late game, and you can get shots into the side or into weak spots real quick, you're talking anything from 800 down is killable. And then if you consider you're pretty quick with the next 2 shots and then pretty quick with the next 2 shots, if you get in amongst a bunch of near deads and you've got hit points, you can wipe out 3 tanks easily. Easily. All right? So it's brutal. It's brutal if you have hit points and options towards the end of the game. So that's how I've been doing with my whole 7 battles so far. MBT Bravo. Let's go take a look at some gameplay footage. All right, first gameplay here is on Westfield. It's maybe my first game on Platoon with a couple guys. The other guy, Zemke's got an MBT Bravo, and we were Platoon with a 780. I will say this in general, and we'll show this on the second battle. If you're going to Platoon with 3 people, it might be a good idea to have one of them be a more solid, beefy tank. 780 is not super beefy, but something that has a little more staying power, so that the other 2 kind of burst tanks can have a little protection when they're down and support pushes and things like that. I just throw that out on the Platoon side of things. So I'm kind of figuring this thing out. Let's see if we can get some shots. Here's my first shots. All right, I don't really wait for it to zoom in. They're both going to move. Both going to miss. And I try to shift over to him, and he gets actually some nice bounces. He's an MBT Bravo, so in a hold down situation with angled upper plate, I bounce. So I'm not surprised by that. Already just hit that poor guy in there. There was no explosion. So we've got Zemke on the other side. He's sort of facing off with some cyclical type guys in the ST2 with a bunch of armor. Not really the best idea. Getting thumped pretty hard right there. It is very tempting with this tank, like a lot of the auto loader, reloader things, to try to just jump out and gun him down, right? Oh, I got all this alpha. Resist that temptation as you would with most auto loaders. Be a little bit more careful in your gameplay early on. Take advantage of the burst in situations. Now here's an example right here. If you can, but be careful about standing up out in front of other tanks. Not really the best aiming. I bounced one of those. There's the shot in between, or the time in between, and we're able to take down that guy right there. So we put a hurting on him, but we're only sitting at 736 damage, right? We shot, what, 4, 5, 6 shells, I think, total. The first time I reloaded, and I didn't talk about it while I was yapping, but notice how long that was to get back into the fight. I'd shot 2 shells and I hit C and forced to reload. At least this time I shot all my shells and my only choice is to reload. And then we got this push going on here. And we're going to misplay this a little bit as well. So this MBT Bravo, Sleepy Monkey, is pushing in. I think he's feeling like he's got all that burst potential, so he wants to get in there and do damage, but he got thumped by the Grill A. Now he's working the Grill A over. We're going to come over here, auto aim, 2 shots, one of which went right into the ground. And notice I immediately hit C, and it's a bit reflexive for me right now with a tank like this. And there's a customer. So had I had 4 shells, I could have done some serious work on this guy, then fallen back and reloaded, and my buddies could come finish him off. But as it is, look how long I'm out of the fight. Poor Grill's trying to get in there and get something done. I think he misses her. What does he do here? He's having a hard time figuring out. Oh boy, I think he hit the ground. So he gets thumped. I'm still in the fight, guys. I'm still waiting, still waiting, still waiting. We're talking Zemke and I. Zemke comes around, and we're going to jump on this dude. Now, he's about to get gunned down pretty hard. Boom, boom. There's 760. Both of those went in. He takes 2 more shots, and that's the power of a platoon. It looks like Yoo-Hoo actually got him with the cyclical gun, but the 2 MBTs, we just eliminate that guy. So a permissive situation where we can come out and get all of our shots in, all 3 of platoon together. That's trouble for anybody, even if we were cyclical. But how fast we're able to get rid of 2,000 because of the double shot of love from the 2 MBTs. That's why I think it's a broken game mechanic overall. I don't enjoy it that much in the game. I really wish it was not there. Again, on a long reload, sort of repositioning, we'll go past in case he looks at me, but he's not looking at me. Reload, reload, reload. I'm like, all right, I'm going to kill this guy. Boom, boom. Oh boy, one of them's an armor not hit, so it looks like I got into a track or a wheel. All right, I'm going to hold it, I believe, on this one, and here's why, because I finally using my brain just a little bit. I know that the 780 is there, and if I look at the mini-map, I feel like we can finish off the 780 pretty quickly. I just need to bring my 4 shells over there and do that. Plus, we have 2 Tessacks running around, so I want to be ready if they show up. So I'm going to come in here, and unfortunately we lose the 110E3 to a Caro. I'm going to come in here, and we're going to finish off this 780, or so I think. There we go, we got him. And I make a really dumb move right here. I saw the bat chat. I'm thinking, again, I got the fangs out. I want to put 2 shells into the Tessack. Guess what? That's not enough to kill him. I have to get some serious high rolls. I just needed to back out of this, deal with him, maybe keep him honest and not shoot me, and not come up here and lose. Look, I just traded 419 damage for just about all my hit points, like an absolute muppet. All right, that didn't have a whole lot to do with it being an auto loader, loader. That's just bad gameplay on my part. I saw the threat and chose to get my 400 alpha and get crushed. So completely on me. It had nothing to do with the tank. Tessacks are raging around. We got a Caro. Now he's an auto loader dude. That's a problem. And I'm on this long reload. And this is the problem. Unfortunately, our poor MBT Bravo ally dies because he's shot everything he's got. And now I'm trying to deal with what looked like a win, to be honest, but not particularly great gameplay. We're going to come up here and we'll get one more shot of damage, I believe. There we go. We got 419. We got 4 shells. Can we even get the 4 shells off? We did make a bounce. I don't know if that hurt. Lost the gun. Fix the gun, shoot, and die. All right, great. 3,436 damage. Just wanted to show you that in terms of things to think about with the way this auto loader works, how long the reload is. It has great burst potential. It also has great potential to be misplayed. A little bit of both in that match. Now let's take a look at another example. This next game, again platooned, I really wanted to just front load my stupid mistakes, so just hold on for that. We were talking about pushing up into the ravine, but we see a fast IS-7, hauling ass into what looks like going into the ravine there. We're going to find some other guys pushing, and we're going to have to change our minds. because the enemy team sort of got this. And I see the 260. So right now we're thinking, well, okay, that's not a good idea. We do have a mouse with us this time. You see this dude? We're going to shoot him. And unfortunately, I eat a shot from the Char Murat. Batchat goes in. Oh, geez. MBT Bravo, a Toro. This is bad. Yeah, well, we got the Char Murat, but holy cow. No way right now we're going to get in there. I'm going to try to get away, and I'm dumb. Thought I was going to get absolutely overwhelmed, but now we're going to lose 562 hit points. So, El Stupido sitting at 2 shells. I kind of felt like I might get swarmed, so I saved those 4 shots. Come over here and see if we can get a shot on him. Okay, nope. No good, no bueno. And we'll force the reload. At which point I went, well, I may not have wanted to do that because these guys are getting aggressive. The good news here is we have decently strong defenses here. So many a team has lost on this map by pushing too hard in this situation. There's not enough guns gone, and we have enough fellers over here that we can maul them. Decently strong position. I'm probably in about the worst position if they can get up and start shooting at me from the side here, but we'll see what happens. Long reload, waiting. Zemke raging around. We got the Mal's sitting there, and then here comes the Patton. Toro's trying to make peaks. Honestly, if the 260 and the IS-7 had pushed in with them, probably they mop us up over here pretty quickly. T-5041 is very grumpy, but they didn't. They went to the middle, and they're sniping and doing those things, and then pretty quickly the enemy team is going to do something dumb here, like this right here. So I see the other MBT Bravo. I don't know what he's thinking. I guess he didn't really see my marker sitting right there or didn't think about it, but he kind of pushes up into the flat. And initially, I'm like, I don't have a shot. And I thought, oh, I do have a shot. Very nice. Boom, boom. 2 shots. Just brutal burst. Boom, boom. Takes a shot back at me, but I close him out. So now I'm sitting at a 1 shot. Like I said, I wanted to front load my stupidity and lose all my hit points, which is exactly that plan was accomplished right here. Now we're discussing how we want to handle this. We have Zemke, who is Camp Alama Ding Dang. Yeah, he's back there kind of looking at the IS and the object. I'm talking to you about whether he can push in, and maybe we can clean up the Toro and the Patton. I have to be careful. I can't rush in first, so you who's pushing up in there with all those hit points and armor. I see the 15-16 following up. We have an FV. He's not really in position to help, but who knows? Maybe he'll get a sniper shot. We're trying to get Zemke to cruise back over here. And we'll see how it kind of works with the auto loader, reloader action here. He pushes into the mouths. I see the IS-7. He's up top, and I'm thinking maybe he'll make a runner. He takes a hit. Good. So if he gets scared and has to run, maybe I can get some shots on him right here. Yoo-hoo pushes in with the Maus, and this is where the combination of a armored tank like a Maus with a bunch of hit points and armor and the auto loader action like this. Unfortunately, I only get 1 shot out of him. That does really hurt, fellas. Down goes the Toro. That's huge. I'm going to hold these 4 shells, the 2 burst potentials, instead of hitting C immediately, because I think we're going to get some more lights right here, and we do. Now watch, this is very cool. Boom, boom. Oh! Ooh. Brutal when you get the 2 shots in there. I think the first one just went into the tracks, to be honest. Second one ammo racked the thing. I'll take it, 2,100 damage. Undeserved, but why not? Now I look like a hero at 4,542. A minor hero, let's put it that way. It's not that big of a... It's not that much damage at tier 10. Maybe it kind of is for me. Whatever. Or pretend it was awesome and I meant to do that, because I know where the ammo rack is on every jet. It's not a jet. Every tank. Yeah. At this point, I just become very passive. We're winning. I don't want to throw it away. I am a 1-shot. I can see those guys pushing in. I think right now my careful gameplay is probably a good idea, but I'll show you where I think it's not. I do save those 2 shells, so I'm starting to learn a little bit. I feel like I'm going to get those shells into the game, and I don't want to wait the 40 seconds. Although, to be honest, about the time I'm ready to get in there, I might have had all my shells. I'm trying to find a shot on him. He's behind that hard cover. And about right here, I wish I'd been more aggressive. There's only 3 guys left. I should have just traveled down where the Maus is, come up and over, and maybe try to get a shot in the side or the back of the CC Mark 1. But I was operating under the idea that 1 shot would kill me, kind of like what just happened to Zemke. However, if I'd have been traveling earlier, I'd have been coming up and over this hill and been able to put the shots into the back of the CC Mark 1. We'll just watch him die, and I do not get any more shots out of this, so I'm going to leave this game with 4,542 damage total. I wanted to show that second one because a little bit better example of working with your heavy brawler. If I had not lost so many hit points earlier, I probably could have pushed in with Yoo-Hoo with the Mouse and been more effective down there and got some more damage. Or later on right here, been able to kind of be a little more aggressive in that situation instead of sitting back and hiding. Decisions earlier in the game are going to affect you, but I wanted to show you that kind of little bit better, I thought, handling of the auto reloading game mechanic. So it can be a brutal tank, but it does take a little care and feeding to make sure you're not screwing it up. All right, MBT Bravo, a tier 10. I don't think it's a premium. I think it's a reward tank kind of idea. I don't believe it gives you extra credits out there. Controversial in terms of the nested round square box thing and the whole controversy about that. As far as the tank goes, it appears to be strong, probably not overpowered. I don't like the game mechanic. I consider that kind of game mechanic to be broken in the game, and I think it's a net negative for the game. That's my opinion. In the right hands, it can be a very strong tank, but it's easy to screw up, and you can easily take yourself out of hit points and being decisive in a battle by mishandling your reloads and where you shoot and when you shoot and all that good stuff. However, if you can work it carefully, work it as a support vehicle, I think it's probably best in a platoon, to be honest with you, with somebody to help support you, even if it's another MBT Bravo, because once you got two of them, you can handle a lot of situations by sheer firepower, and you have some hit points because you are a heavy, so you've got a decent hit point pool to deal with at the beginning. But if you're running a 3-man platoon or woman or whatever, I recommend at least one of them be kind of a bruiser in there to support the other two, and the other two then to support the bruiser. That is all I've got, guys. Enjoy out there. Have a great time. See ya.